Oh my God, Mitch, I'm sorry. I was just so surprised to see you standing there.
Not as surprised as I was.
You got that Baywatch podcast, that's where it's at. You got that Baywatch podcast, that's where it's at. You got that Baywatch podcast, that's where it's at. You got that Baywatch podcast, that's where it's at.
CJ, it's beautiful up here. You're gonna love it, huh?
Yeah, it's beautiful, but I miss the beach. You should come back to Baywatch.
Yes, welcome Baywatching podcast listeners. You know I got a new lease on life. I feel so alive for the very first time, and I think I can fly. I'll tell you guys, Bill's up at his Tort Con. Well, he's coming back. He's almost here. Don't talk about the documentary to him. He hasn't seen it. We can keep that between us. That's you and me. We're the Baywatching Truth community. Bill's almost here, so we're gonna have to wrap this conversation up. He might be walking. Is that him outside? Maybe.
Hey, Drew.
Hey, Bill. Welcome
Drew.
home.
What's up? Let me just put my stuff down
No,
here.
just throw it down, sit down, start recording, man. We got the episode going.
Well, let me at least put some of this away.
Just drop it right where you're at, dude. I got this song playing right now. This is the original Baywatching podcast theme.
Yeah, I see that. You've been, I'm surprised to see you watching Baywatch.
I've been researching Baywatch, man. Yeah, I've been looking at this. It was supposed to be on every first season episode. They changed it for some reason. You know who wrote this?
Black Cop.
Black Cop's in it. You can't see, but Bill's watching the video original intro. This is the songwriter from Chicago. The songwriter from Chicago who wrote, "If you leave me now, you take away the biggest part of me." Ooh, baby, you got it. He wrote that song too. And he wrote this. He wrote the original theme for Baywatching. Isn't that kind of cool?
Yeah, I think so.
So there you have it, Bill. What do you think of that? That's done just a little bit of the research I've done. I'm just telling our listeners, man, I'm energized as fuck, man. I've had so much space with you away this week. It just felt great. I've been working. I've been researching, watching Baywatch.
I know. Speaking of, I saw your work.
What do you
over on the plane here? I listened to the episode. Watched the episode while I was at the festival, and then I called you so that we could try to do it.
Not sure.
And I guess you were doing your own fucking conspiracy water episode.
I have no clue what you're talking about, Bill. I'm here to talk about Baywatch, man,
well,
frankly.
Good. Did you watch the episode with the lifeguards and Raging Waters?
I watched Snake Eye. We were actually on the episode Snake Eyes, Bill, because last week was the water. What?
Yeah.
You said water slide?
Yeah.
I wouldn't watch any episodes like that anyway.
Yeah.
Water slides?
Yeah, with the water slides.
Maybe I just tuned it out because that's too painful for me to watch.
Well, it was a pretty cheeky episode. We had, Eddie and Court. They had to go to Raging Waters to train these the lifeguards there at Raging Waters. That was like a competition to become a lifeguard at Raging Water.
Okay.
And but it got sabotaged, or so they thought, by this guy whose son murdered him or committed suicide by jumping off. It was this whole long thing.
The guy was spending too much time in the water. He was like, "Uh-oh, there's no more reason to live. I'm at this water park all the time. I'm addicted to it now. I need to die."
God damn it, Drew. No, that's
Probably.
no. That's not what happened.
Well, why would they take it so far away from our beloved beach? But it just seems like I
well,
think
that's why it was kind of nice. They got away from the beach for an episode.
You're not. If I would have watched this episode, I probably would have realized like this is a secret message, anti-water. But it's just kind of too. I have
Raging
my limits.
Waters.
Yeah,
They went to Raging Waters.
I have my
think
limits.
It's anti-water. Mm-hmm. I think it's pro-water.
Well,
I mean, I don't know. Your whole premise is flimsy about Baywatch being anti-water.
It's like a subversive. It's a encrypted code. That we're meant to read. Harum Nihon Sono. And I mean, if you watch the movie, actually, just don't even think about it. I got to talk about this episode this week. I've researched.
So you watched this next one?
Yeah, that's the one we're on. It's called Snake Eyes.
Well, fuck. Well, it's a good thing I happened to watch it on the plane on the way over here.
Oh yeah, I thought
because
you would.
I didn't
You're
know that
prepared.
we were gonna do it, but okay.
Oh, don't worry. I'm glad you're sitting down. Glad you're back, Bill. It's a little more cramped
Well,
in
what
the apartment.
you mean you did like some research and
I got my whole thing. Like I'm newly alive, Bill. Like I was telling the guys, I'm back. I'm back, man. I'm energized. You know, from like before the
All right.
hospital
I
levels.
hope this is actually about Baywatch.
Get ready. It
not
was.
some water.
It's your apartment. What can I do? It was February 9th, 1990. A person born on this day, Bill, will be 32 years old today. If that same person saved a penny every day starting at age 7, then by now that person has accumulated $93.42. I'm just like, why? Why? It's like such an unnecessary fact, and then why did they wait till age 7 to start? Do you know what I mean? Like, this is weird.
At age 7. That
I
was
copied
when it was
that
safe.
exactly, like from the website of here's what happened on that day. Oh, curious fact: if you were born on that day and then started saving at age 7, as everyone does,
You know what? Let me tell you something, Drew. I think you've read that curious fact before in your thing.
and
of the
made
day.
comment, really?
Yeah.
We have read it before, but I don't think I made that comment. I think we were just like, that's silly.
Yeah.
I don't think the other one started at age 7 either. Go back and listen. Someone posted on the Reddit.
Yeah, I say don't save the penny.
Don't save your fucking pennies, dude.
You're better
Yeah.
off not having the stress of saving the penny.
On that same day, Dorina Milente runs the world indoor record for the 1K, and it's 4 minutes and like 27 seconds. And then it's 4 minutes, nothing seconds, and then whatever comes after, like microsecond. I don't know. And then she ran the indoor mile, in 4 minutes and 17 seconds and 13 microseconds. It's
Okay.
like. That's what was curious to me too, because like, oh, there's an indoor one, and then I didn't hear about the outdoor.
Is it air conditioned?
Yeah, probably. Maybe that makes you go faster because you're just like
Maybe.
you're cool.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe it's an advantage.
Yeah. Spacecraft Galileo flies by Venus at this day at an altitude of 10,000 miles in gravity to do an assist maneuver to gain speed on its way to Jupiter. It was an interesting fact, but
I've heard about this. It's
Yeah.
where you like
they spin it around. Yeah.
Yeah, you go by like so you can get like some momentum from the gravitational force of the planet.
Exactly. And then we saw Jupiter,
Star Trek
beautiful Jupiter.
taught me that.
Yep. We saw beautiful Jupiter for the first time, and
Nice.
I won't even get into how there's no water on those planets and how ours is the only one with water. And isn't that curious? Why aren't we the planetary norm? Just think for a second.
Well,
Holiday.
doesn't Jupiter have like a moon that's all water?
There's no such thing as moons. The holiday of Saint Apollonia is that day as well, Bill. The patron saint of dentists. Not only that, but also dental technicians. And
He's
I'm just
the
like,
patron saint of dental technicians.
I was like, that's weird. Like, it sounds like an old person. Like, oh yeah, 1633. Like Saint Apollonia got some apples, and we revere her because she was really helpful to the dental technicians in the 1600s.
Yeah.
You know what?
I thought the saying was an apple a day keeps the doctor away, not the dentist.
No, Apollonia a day keeps the dentist partay because they celebrate on that day for her. It's like their holiday.
All right. Dentist holiday.
Here's another thing that happened, and we can talk. Guess what? We get to talk about TV because it's bad. On this day, I think it was the return of the Bradys to television.
Ooh.
You know the Bradys.
The Brady Bunch.
There's a bunch of them, yeah. The return of the Bradys to television. Jonathan Taylor Thomas plays a child of one of the fucking Brady brothers or sisters. I don't fucking know. The
Okay.
concept is like they're all grown up, and
Right.
living their separate lives, but we're here. They come back to the house. All the parents are there. The maid is there and shit.
Yeah.
And
I feel like I remember seeing that.
I don't even remember that at all. Like, and I watched some of them. I was like, this is weird. And then so here's one storyline.
Is there one where like Carol's ex-husband or husband comes back from the dead?
I don't know.
I feel like there's like one of those where it's like I'm actually not dead and here it is.
Here's the plot line that struck me though, because I've never heard that, but that sounds like Hamlet. Brady Bunch is Hamlet, you know. Like, but a bunch of stupid shit happens to all the Brady families or members. But youngest son Bobby, you remember the youngest guy?
Yeah.
Well, he's secretly dropped out of college and is pursuing his dream of becoming a professional race car driver. He's on his way to becoming a top driver when he's in a terrible crash and becomes a paraplegic from the waist down.
What?
Yes. And then
I don't remember that.
after dealing with his depression, Bobby starts to go
What?
through rehabilitative therapy with Peter's help. Funny thing is, I think this is going to happen to Mitch. I swear to God, I've seen it in this episode where Mitch is going to be paralyzed from the waist down. There's going to be 2 episodes where he has to like do physical therapy. It's going to be really funny.
So he's not really paralyzed. He comes back. But I guess he's temporary.
because there's like 10 more seasons after that episode. But this is not about Mitch. This is about the Bradys. And so Peter's getting rehabilitated, and along the way, he sees his old girlfriend named Tracy, and the two fall in love and get married. And then they both drown in a horrific accident at a dune buggy gathering in Utah.
What?
In the episode before the show ultimately gets canceled.
Oh, so this was a show that
It was
came
6
back.
episodes, and it came back. It was like a rerun called The Brady's.
Oh,
and it got canceled after 6
I didn't remember that. No.
episodes.
I was thinking it was like a movie. 'Cause remember they did a bunch of later movies with them all growing
Yeah.
up?
This is before that, I think, or around. I don't know.
Around that time, maybe?
Yeah, they're
I
like,
don't
let's
know.
try to bring it back. It didn't work. This show, it was terrible. Go watch it, read about it, because it's bad. It's like Baywatch, but Baywatch didn't get canceled for 21 episodes, and this show only lasted 6. So Baywatch is better.
And then Baywatch came back and lasted another like 10,
Right.
12 years.
And there's obviously artery motives for Baywatch, that are telling us things. But
yeah,
the
it's
truths.
It's got an agenda.
Yes. And so back to it. Our episode this week, Snake Eyes. I have my logline, Bill.
Okay, go ahead.
Court and the guys visit a counter monument. And it's a counter monument to the regulations of big government and the money controllers. Eddie gets in too deep with his gamble, and Hobie continues to be a little shit. Mitch gets busy with Hobie's teacher, and Hobie continues to be a little shit about that. I just wanted to really emphasize.
Hobie is a little shit.
Yeah. You got a log line?
No, but I'll do one off the cuff here.
Okay.
Yeah, you have basically
you
two
do.
things.
We always
like
do.
I always do.
Yeah.
So you have two things here in this episode. You had, someone sleeping with teacher, and it's daddy. But that's
Bye-bye, mommy.
Actually, bye-bye, mommy. And then you've got, Eddie learns a difficult lesson that gambling, you usually lose.
Right?
And he learns that lesson the hard way.
Oh, man.
But he actually doesn't have to face any real consequences
No, he doesn't.
because then his friends bail him out.
Yeah, with like a shoddily written like loophole where the clever villain is just weighing dice. And because he's made an ethically questionable decision, now Eddie does not owe the $3,000 that he incurred in debt to him,
Right.
Because he was cheating.
Yeah, because he was cheating.
Yeah. And when you have like drug dealers that you're involved with and shit, and like if you get a bunch of drugs from them and don't pay them, and then if you point out like, well, what you're doing is illegal and you are cheating the system, my friend, then they're like, okay, we won't.
That was like
kill
what,
you. We won't
what
murder you.
lawyer guard Greg wanted to do. He was like, well, that's an illegal gambling operation. That debt won't hold up in court.
Yeah.
I was like, well,
They're
exactly
going
what he
to
said.
murder him. What are you gonna do? Like it's just they don't operate under the laws of the system.
Yeah,
they're
it's like,
criminals.
What is like you think? And then later
They live on the water
they did that. They did basically just call the cops
because
So
they were
it's
doing
like,
bad things. Yeah. Much to Court's chagrin, did they call the cops? Because I don't want to handle this with this cop. They're mad. He's mad about it.
Yeah, which I don't understand really
I don't
because
either.
well, I guess Court wanted to walk away with the money. That was really irked Court. He's like,
That's
hey,
right. Because he's
we
a
could've-
little dirty.
We could have all gotten this money, dude.
And then they're like, and you know what, Court? We need to talk about how you wanted to just steal all that money. And then he just kind of like, and like walks away, I think. And then doodle-doo,
Which is
the
funny.
episode
It's
ends.
like, where does Court come from? Where did he come from when he joined back up the gang?
He murdered a guy. Basically, like he is in that shop right now. He's running that shop
Yeah, because he
because he
murdered
got that guy killed.
Yeah, and
Nobody
he was
mentions it. It's
yeah
just-
doing like some shady deals as an ex Navy SEAL.
it's ridiculous.
Because this shows you what like the type of character and moral ethics.
But I
of
love Court.
some of these people. Oh yeah, he's probably one of the better
Yeah.
characters now.
Yeah, he's a water warrior.
I mean,
too,
ever since
in
they
life
got,
right now.
I noticed they still are they show Court now in the intro.
Yes,
But they don't show
Aussie guard.
Aussie, but they do show Aussie guard,
They
but
show-
they don't
yep.
have him. And
They
they're like,
are
why?
going to continue to show him for the rest of the show, and he is never going to come back. I told you he was murdered. He was bludgeoned by a bag of. Can you guess? What?
What?
He was bludgeoned by
I
a.
thought maybe he just went back to Sydney. He wanted to go.
You don't want to play
Australia.
a guessing game for our listeners?
Well, what do you think he was bludgeoned by?
What do you think? A bag
Well,
of
I think a bag of pennies.
ice.
Ice.
Yeah, because that's hard water.
Mm.
It's hard. It's hard to bludgeon
I
someone
don't
with like
think
a
so.
bag of water.
I think he probably just went back to Australia, dude.
He is dead. Look it up on Wikipedia. But Bill,
right.
we did our log lines. Remember how we one time did a segment about? See, I'm just going so deep. I've done so much this week. I have energy. I'm drinking our new Baywatching Truthers Energy. drink, by the way, and I think that's why.
I saw some of those advertisements. You're selling that now through Baywatch.
We're making it, man. We're making that money.
Selling
community building.
Selling this stuff that might poison people.
Organizing is hard, Bill, and we can take all that we can to spread
I don't
this.
feel comfortable with that, dude.
Let me read to you this segment that we used to do. Remember the segment we used to do where it was like, I'm bringing it to Baywatch, like you like. Remember when we would read us a weird review that I found online one time?
Yeah, I think I remember that.
I found another one for this episode, and I'm reading it because it kind of makes me laugh, but also I'm just like, can you explain any of some of it? So here's the beginning of it.
Okay.
And you haven't even seen this. I haven't even seen this episode about the parasailer, but it says, here's how they title their review of Snake Eyes. It's called The Saga of the Upended Briefcase. Does that ring a bell for anything? Was there ever like a briefcase or anything? That's the title of their review.
Oh, yeah. It is like the briefcase. That's how Toby gets the answers to the test. The teacher's briefcase.
That's how he sees
pops
a little
open.
shit and he steals the answers to the test.
Yeah, that's one of his little shit moves.
And the teacher is so dumb because she can't deduce that, like, oh, Hobie's been just like flunking all of his assignments.
Yeah,
I left my briefcase at his house before the test. He returned it to me and got 100% on the test. The answers were written in my voice, and I never questioned it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, she's an idiot.
Yeah, she is dumb.
I don't like her.
Yeah, I don't think she's
not
gonna
right for
last.
Mitch.
I don't think she's gonna last.
She's not right for him. Yeah.
No.
But
no.
let me read you this guy's review. The Saga of the this or girl, and that's it, guy or girl.
Okay.
Because here at Baywatching Podcast, we respect the gender
well,
binary.
No, you don't speak for the whole Baywatching podcast.
The Saga of the Upended Briefcase. Eddie's unpleasant water skiing. See, that's from the episode you were talking about.
Yeah.
Court got a hot new squeeze. Oh, yeah, he got a new girlfriend at the beginning of the episode.
I guess, yeah. Kind of, yeah. That's like why he was there, I guess.
Buke, spelled B-Y-O-O-K, enamored. That's a sentence. Buke enamored. That's the next sentence in the review. What does that mean?
I don't know. Is Buke like the black cop?
I don't know. Next sentence, Junior irked. I think that refers to Hobie.
Junior irked?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's what that would be.
Craig finds a tiny little beached whale that looks exactly like Kramer.
Oh, that's from when
Eddie washes up.
Eddie washes up.
Eddie washes ashore at one point in the episode.
Weird ass review.
It's like something we would write.
Yeah.
Eddie, I didn't. I swear to God. But Eddie does wash ashore at one point because they kick him off of the ship as punishment for not being able to pay his debts.
Yeah, and then drag him like behind this little tugboat
on a boat.
like, yeah,
and then he just washes up on Craig's run.
Yeah,
on
Craig's
the beach.
just doing a run on the beach like you do.
Finds him, yeah.
Yeah,
Don't tell Mitch.
You know, L.A. and all these different beach cities that they're at, because at one point they're like, oh, I'm looking at Long Beach. They're out in Long Beach, Santa Monica. We know Greg lives in Venice. It seems like they're always just running into each other.
I
like
know.
they all live in like Redondo Beach or
Uh-huh.
one of these cities, but
Yeah.
they seem to all live and work in different cities and beach cities across Los Angeles, but they
I feel like
are always running into each other.
It's like you live in Crenshaw, I live in San Pedro, but the plot of this podcast necessitates that we meet up every week.
That's true. That's true.
And it wouldn't happen if it wasn't for the plot, just like in Baywatch. It wouldn't. It just that's I mean, like if it wasn't for the plot of this podcast, this wouldn't be happening.
So I guess so.
And then the last line of the fucking review: as realistic as Gilligan's Island, but just not as funny. I liked that. 2 stars for harpooning the watermelon, because remember they're practicing.
that.
Why did they need that harpoon again? I forgot.
I guess to get onto the ship as like a grappling.
Yeah. So as you do when you have to practice hitting a ship with a harpoon, you use a watermelon.
Yeah, you shoot a watermelon on the ground.
Yeah, because it's the same physical. It's the same physics.
Yeah,
the same
versus
target size.
shooting a thing like a harpoon
onto the huge surface of a ship.
Yeah, and I don't understand how it's gonna hook. It wasn't like a grappling hook. It was like, I guess it was supposed to like get stuck into the.
It's like how for the plot of this podcast, sometimes when I need you to be here. And I use a large harpoon to land on your head and just bring you here just so the podcast can happen. Like, that's it. And sometimes before we do that, I use the harpoon to comically shoot a mango.
Just for practice.
Yeah, and it just to fill time.
And even after that, you still missed.
Yeah.
But,
So that was that guy's review, dude, and I liked that.
yeah, that was a kind of funny review.
But you remember my logline, Bill, where I talk about the counter monument, the ship, and there's a ship in that ship. That ship is actually a piece of art that the dice place is on.
yeah.
That's a piece of art, architectural piece of art. It's called a counter monument.
Okay.
You know what a counter monument is, Bill?
No, I've never heard of this.
You know about a counter memory? Do you know what a counter memory is?
I don't think so.
Well, they have this in the episode too. Hobie's history report is a counter memory because it reveal it not the whitewashed history that they want us to learn that's dry and waterless. He stuck it to the man or the woman, his teacher, and just gave her nothing because the education system is giving him nothing. So that is he was. Counter memory is something that's not that, but history.
Wait, where does this counter?
I was having a counter memory. History, Bill. Let me explain.
Okay, what is it?
History is written, Bill, by the winners, the wet
Yes.
winners. It
Okay.
develops, and it develops a collective memory. Like the winners of history. They have a collective memory that they want us all to sort of understand. This is the narrative, the flow of human history, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's one which often glosses over painful truths in the name of making a nation or a leader or, a group of wealth look sparkly and shiny and clean. Even if that nation or leader or concentrated wealth, contributed to the suffering of millions and millions of people. They want the history to overlook all of that and be like, these are our heroes.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
That's like sort of a one way that we were talking before we at one point about that's what we to learn in our history books of elementary school, right?
Right.
And so now, Bill, let's talk about the Nazis. These were victims. These were victims. These Nazis were victims, and they were because they were being led by the water as a sort of as a counter attack, on humanity. They were water's pawns, and they're evil and they're horrible, but they were duped.
All right, dude. Okay, enough with this water shit.
The victims of the Holocaust, though, Bill, the Jews, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Roma, homosexuals, people
Right.
with disabilities, Afro-Germans,
Yeah.
and others who were, affected by the Holocaust and Hitler and the Nazis. They obviously had a deep distrust for monuments and monumental forms of architecture and art in light of having been systematically exploited by the Nazis who built impressive monuments and statues in the name of sort of the supremacy of their culture,
Right.
They didn't like that, and so
Makes sense.
the survivors of these Nazi crimes, they had a profound desire to distinguish their generation, from that of the killer's generation through memory. They wanted a counter memory. They really wanted people to focus on like, look what happened to us. Don't erase this history.
Right.
They wanted monuments that reflected that, like what had happened.
Yeah.
They challenged individuals.
Like the Museum of Tolerance.
Like the Museum of Tolerance is kind of a counter monument in a way. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it is. And they wanted monuments like this that would reflect, what had really happened to people that were like steamrolled by the powers of history.
Right. Rather than just reflecting how great the powers that be are.
Exactly. Fuck you, Queen. So they wanted monuments, these survivors. They wanted monuments that reflected what really happened to them and that challenged individuals to reflect on history rather than forcing a sanitized version down all of our throats, like we've been talking about. So the monuments of the Third Reich, like we've mentioned, they're all about greatness of the nation, right? Kind of like the monuments that you find in D.C. in our very nation, right? They're glorifying this nation. Man, it's so good. We're evolving. We're getting better. And it wants you to believe that specific narrative.
There are a lot of monuments, man. I was in
We saw.
D.C. not
You
too
saw.
long ago.
Yeah.
And I was there again not too long ago. And it was like, yeah, man, every block you go down, there's some like, this guy was the second Postmaster General of the U.S.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And
we're all about those monuments.
We're going to
man.
talk about one that you might have seen, too, but I won't bring it up yet.
Although, you know what? I don't learn very much. I was just like, okay.
Yeah.
Guess that's a guy. Sometimes you would look him up a little bit on Wikipedia
And be like,
and read
"Blah, blah, blah."
something.
You know,
but-
honestly, like I kind of found a new. I was like, got really excited after doing the research for this because I was like, ooh, like now I'm you know, how, like you connect to stuff like when you're like, I want to learn about this,
yeah.
and now I'm like, I feel like I would have found some of this like a little bit dry which would be good in a way if I wasn't reading it with this interest point because now I'm like, fuck, I want to understand all these artists like and this type of art that I just kind of never really considered,
Right.
But let me go back, Bill. The term, the term counter monument. It seems to fittingly describe a more democratic ethos of engaging individuals subjectively rather than authoritatively instilling moral lessons. These were the kind of monuments survivors of the Holocaust preferred. In fact, these are the types of monuments that would reflect most people's experience of history instead of glamorizing the oligarchy or holders of power, right?
Right.
Postmodernism also played a major role in like sort of these monuments being manifested by people and artists.
You saw that in like art, like
we talked about with TV.
Yeah, or like
But
and
not-
then just early art, like in the Middle Ages and stuff. You know,
well, not
it was,
postmodernism, but yeah.
No, yeah, like but way before that. Like
Yeah.
what is that? There's like this one type of art that like I always never really was into, but it was like always like of kings and queens and like floating babies and very
Oh
like
yeah, I know. If Inesia was
ah,
wanting to be in a relationship with me, she was an art major. She would
know it. Yeah, it's Roku. It's something with
Roku.
an R. Something that's not, but
Baroque.
It's like something with an R, I think.
Da
but-
Vinci.
or maybe. But anyways, it's like, but there was like a change, and then you had
Palestine.
people in like more of the Enlightenment times, like Degas, or Degas. I don't know how to say that guy's name.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about Foucault, Foucault, I don't know.
But who would like write, who would take portraits of like women just working, like
Yeah,
doing
that's
laundry.
good. Ooh.
And it was like, or like ballet people just practicing, and they were
Yeah.
lower class, working class people.
It instills a
being
good message,
painted.
like this makes us happy. Women are working, men are working, the poor men are working, and everything is beautiful.
Well, it just like we were saying,
Nuclear
it
family
reflects
is
people's
intact.
actual lives rather than like just the wealthy and powerful.
Right. But this is postmodernism, this shit, because it's like, because I feel like even that, even though it's showing, like peasant life and stuff, in a way it's like, this is what peasants are, and that's it.
I don't know. That's
Maybe.
where it's coming from.
I don't think it's the same as a counter monument, that art is all, But I get that historically it would be
Yeah.
profound to start seeing art about the peasants, because
That's what-
usually
that's
you
what I
just
mean,
start,
is that-
I see what
that-
you're saying.
You never saw that, and then
Right.
you started to see it around the Renaissance.
And that's probably its own phenomena of thing, right?
Yeah,
But
that's what
this
I'm
is
saying.
kind of strictly like, I don't know, like basically in response to like people getting aware of like world genocides, one of them being the Holocaust.
right.
And it being like a thing that now it's like collectively as a planet we're like, we have to reconcile, like this keeps happening.
Right, like, and that's one of the things like America, and like why I think America struggles with race is so much still is because like America like had like over 100 years of slavery and then never had a truth and reconciling
I know.
like process.
I know.
So yeah,
Some of the monuments
it's an important thing.
that we're talking, and I think it'll be
Or
interesting
part
when we
of
get
that,
to
or, like,
like the
attempts to do
70s.
that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It'll be interesting when we get to the 70s. We're gonna talk about a monument that counts as counter monument, and it's a Vietnam War memorial.
Okay,
You might have heard of it or seen it at DC. We'll describe it a little.
I did see it.
But postmodernism, played a role in historical monuments. The postmodern breakdown of historical master narratives. Remember, because we're talking about like, the master narratives of history that leave out all the suffering. And also, when we were talking about postmodern art and TV and stuff, we were talking about like heroes and TV tropes. We would talk about like how it was breaking down those master hero narratives. Remember,
Right,
shows
right.
like Twin Peaks or
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Sopranos. And that's postmodern in nature. It changed TV.
Yeah.
And so this is a similar turning point, but it's postmodernism for like architecture and this type of public art.
Right.
And so just like we discussed with TV and art in other episodes, go back and listen if you haven't, and give us fucking money, assholes.
$3 to become a member of the
Mail-
Baywatch Rookie.
Baywatching
Rookie
Truth
School.
Baywatching Truth community. Mail that shit in.
Mail it in to 5020 Apartment 2,
San Pedro.
Obama.
and
Obama Boulevard.
mail your email address. We're still not clear if you guys are
$3.
understanding this.
Write your email address down on a piece of paper. Put it in the mail. 5020 Apartment 2, Obama Boulevard,
Yeah.
Los Angeles. You send it here.
Yeah.
We then will email you the bonus content.
And I'll propose, Bill, that no doctors, please. No doctors.
You don't want doctors
no
supporting
doctors
this?
care submit. Because number one, as we all know, we can't read your fucking email.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And number two, everyone I've engaged with, back to
That
Baywatch.
could be, that
They're
could be.
injecting me with
It
the
could
water
be
shit.
that some of those
Let's-
people are doctors who I'm having a hard time reading their emails.
Let's
So
just
if you're a
forget it.
doctor and you've subscribed to the Baywatching Rookie School, it's your handwriting.
You're traumatizing me 2 times out then because all the doctors around me injecting me with water and shit. So like I don't want to talk about him anymore.
All right.
And just as we discussed, with TV art, that was the sentence I already read. This kind of art, this postmodern type of art, is a way for stories of the people who were left out of history's broad stroke narratives to be told. A true people's history, if you will. It's a genealogy approach to history, look it up, that can explain why things are the way that they are, instead of presenting history as just the constant evolution of humanity getting better and better, no matter at what cost.
Right.
Anti-monument works usually to address the more obscure and distressing parts of history and like wrongful ideologies. Now, I believe this is Wikipedia. This is a revered author. Traditional monuments.
Okay.
The traditional monuments are portrayed in a glorified manner. This is the voice of Wikipedia. And are very apparent in traditional monuments are portrayed. Wikipedia has a stutter. Traditional monuments are portrayed in a glorified manner and are very apparent in the space that they are in. Anti-monumentalism is discreet in nature. If it is not always obvious to the eye, and sometimes it's not, it is presented nonchalantly in everyday journeys along the area that it is in. Some anti-monuments are entirely invisible to the eye, which in itself is part of the message that the anti-monument is attempting to convey. So I'm sorry I did the voice. It probably might have made it harder to understand. That's how Wikipedia talks, and it's really hard to read. But so it's like sometimes they'll be invisible, and I love this kind of art because it's like, and that's the point. It's like, well, we erased these people's murder, so that's why like the point of this art is invisible because we erased that history.
People have been made invisible.
So I want to tell you about some anti-monuments, Bill. I will show you some examples.
Okay.
The first one I'm just going to describe because it's an invisible one of these.
Okay.
It's called. Okay, I'm also number illiterate. I don't know how to read numbers that are more than 2 digits.
Roman numerals or just numbers?
Just number illiterate. Like if it go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, got it. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, I can only do 2-digit numbers. So that's 1 through 10. And beyond that, like I can't read any other. Like if it's like 1039, like I don't know how 1 million, what that 1 billion, So I'm just gonna read it out, like and look it up if you need to know what the number is. But it's 2146. 2 numbers 2146. 2 as in 2, 1 as in 1,
100,
4 as in 4, 6 as in 6. Was it?
2,146.
I've heard numbers like that before. Okay, so that many stones. Say it.
2,146
stones.
Stones.
That's the title of this this counter monument, and it's a monument against racism, and it's the Invisible Monument by Yochen Gers. Apologies. And I'm gonna show it to. No, I'm not gonna show this one to Bill. It's the invisible one.
Yeah.
What it is it's that many stones that we described, and they're all like names of like somebody who was genocided.
Right.
And they're on like a path, and they're turned upside down.
Oh.
So no one can know the names.
Right. Right.
When you walk on it, you just think about it. Like, fuck, nobody knows these names.
Yeah.
There's like that. There's 2, 1, 4, 6.
Now that one makes sense because
names.
I was wondering how can these things exist and be invisible.
Did I do good work? I've explained it right away.
Sense.
And now I'm going to show you some, Bill.
Okay.
Edit. So this one I'm showing Bill now is entitled Public Figures. He's looking at it. I'm going to have him describe it for you guys. You can go look it up, but this isn't the audio medium, and it's really hard to do visuals. I keep trying to ask, hey, Google, how can I show a picture on my podcast?
Google's not helping you?
No, and I'm pretty sure that this is some water shit.
Wikipedia didn't help you either?
No, but I can't understand their accent.
Yeah. Or they just don't. They're just too snobby. No one.
They're very snobby. Yeah, they sound that way when they. Public Figures, though, is
basically it looks like
it's the title's Public Figures. Let me tell you, it's by Do-Ho Suh. So what do you see?
So I see a bunch of people. They look like working class type people, like in overalls, or jumpsuits, and they're all holding something up.
Now
they're
this is
like holding together, holding something up.
Now that's zoomed in. Let me now show you the full.
Okay.
That's the full picture.
Oh, wow.
You see what's going on? To describe it.
Yeah, so they're like all these tiny little people, and they're holding up this giant like block that's like looks like it's just the base of a statue.
Yeah.
Instead of a statue, there's just a bunch of other little mini statues holding up the base of the statue.
And there's nothing on it.
It's pretty cool, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, there's nothing
Normally
on the
you'd see
statue.
like fucking Robert E. Lee or some shit,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And there's just a bunch of tiny people. And you know what they did with this monument? They would, or this counter monument, at night, they would move that shit.
Oh.
So you would see that like all these little, these people are, they're
Are
moving
moving
that
it,
shit. They're the
yeah.
one, And there was like another thing I thought was really cool about it.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you, I found that a kid's textbook, it's like 4th grade or some shit, uses this, and I want to read to you the questions that like a 4th grader might have to think about. Bill, where have you seen, this is called a plinth. That thing that goes under I guess it's called a plinth.
Okay.
Where have you seen a plinth like this before? And you already described, usually we see a figure on top, right? What kinds of figure do you normally see on top of plinths? Well, public figures. What I'm reading is like a teacher's manual where it's like the question is posed, and then they pose like possible answers that the kids might say. And if
Right.
they're confused, you suggest these.
Right.
And we already kind of talked about it like adults, so I'm going to skip that one. Then it's like, Bill, if you could choose, let's just do it. If you could choose, Bill, who would you put on top of a plinth? A plinth.
John Lennon.
Why? Because he beat
Because
women and...
Because he wrote good music.
That's how he wrote good music.
I didn't know about that.
When I say he beat them too, he just like
I didn't want to put that on the monument.
it was like
It was
he
gonna
just,
be
there
him
was a
with the
sexual
guitar.
thing he did with like a whisk when he had sex with them.
It was this weird kinky thing with the whisk
Yeah.
that he would do.
He beat them like a little scramble. Okay, you put him on there. That's cool. He's a little too wet for my tastes. What qualities, Bill? So now these are the prompts. Like, oh, if the kid doesn't know, I don't know.
Right.
Where I put. Well, what qualities do you admire in someone or in anyone? What qualities do you
Okay.
admire in John Lennon?
His musicianship and songwriting, and then hippiness later in life.
Yeah. And if you're still like one of these kids in the classroom who's got like his water bottle with him, his parents are always, oh, drink your water, and you just dumb fucking brain dead kid who's fucking drinking water, then you might still not have an answer, and then the teacher will be like, okay, well, hey, dumb water kid, maybe is it a family member that you would put on top, or maybe would you put a sporting hero?
Sporting hero
That's
or
the
family
end of the teacher
member?
suggestions.
What? A sporting?
I get family member, but family member or sporting hero. What?
Sporting hero.
Let's encourage kids to think about these anti-monuments that are trying to stop us idolizing people unnecessarily.
And then
And bring up, maybe you put a sporting hero on top. Like, let's not even talk about how, like, maybe say nothing. Maybe it's good that it's nothing.
or the family
That's the
member
point.
makes sense because that's like more like that genealogy.
It's genealogy.
Like, yeah.
That's true. Are the little figures, Bill, strong, or are they oppressed?
They look oppressed.
I like that. I would kind of say that too, but I think that like you got to be fucking super strong to be oppressed.
Yeah. I mean, they're holding up
I
that
think it's
monument.
both. Yeah. you know.
Yeah.
What do you think the artist might be saying? And I think you can say if you want.
I think he's saying that it's all these little people who, the great man is standing on. And he
Right.
wouldn't have been able to accomplish his greatness, and he wouldn't even be on that statue or on that plinth
Right.
if it wasn't for all those other people.
And they're not bad about this, but they're like, okay, well, if you don't know what to say, Water Kid, behind every hero are hundreds of others who work hard helping them to achieve. Like, that's a
That's
very
basically what I
sanitized,
said.
right? Yeah. But it's sort of a little, I don't like it. He wants to make us think about heroes in a different way and how we celebrate them. And like, yeah. But I also, and maybe the artist is like, yeah, that's it. That's enough. But I feel like it's way more like, no, fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck this shit.
Seems more like leftist worker movement.
And that should be like one of the things that they use. Well, if the kid's not thinking of anyone, tell the kid, how about fuck stealing labor? How about fuck stolen labor? Like, tell that little fourth grader, Anyway, another one I want to talk about, Bill, moving on from that one, if you guys are following along. This one's called The Shadow on the Land. It's an excavation and bush burial. That's a title by Nicholas Gallanin. Gallanin?
Okay. Let's see.
That's the same one. Here it is.
Oh.
Describe sort of what you see, if you want.
Well, it looks like a monument, but the shadow of a monument, but carved out, like excavated from the grass. So like it's shadow casting on the grass, but they've just cut out all the grass around the shadow.
Right,
so
you
it's
see the
permanent.
shadow of the guy in the plinth.
Yeah.
Right. No people underneath this one. But
Right.
So let me tell you about that one, Bill. This is also a counter monument. And imagine a future. This is from like the artist's I think description. So that's what I'm reading.
Okay.
Imagine a future where the statues of veneration that mark our public landscape today have long been forgotten, buried beneath the earth. In this speculative archaeological style dig, Nicholas Gallanin uncovers or excavates the shadow cast by Captain Cook. The statue is Captain Cook, that currently resides in Sydney's Hyde Park. Shout out to my Australian dry truthers. The work rests between a positive past, the work rests between a possible past or future burial, a presence through absence of an object that today very much still functions as a celebration of colonial heroics. Inverting the gaze of archaeology, which has often framed indigenous cultures as belonging to the past, this work imagines a possible future where the memories of settler colonialism have become distant and buried. In evoking the temporality of the earth, this work also puts into perspective the young, though devastating history of British invasion and settlement, and imagines a possible indigenous future where the land begins to heal colonial wounds while still remembering. Yeah, I know that's really complex, but I think it's really. I liked it. So I'm sorry I don't read good, but I love what he's doing, this artist.
Yeah, no, it does. It's kind of cool. It's like you're going to bury this and have everything grow back to how it was before you got here.
But then it's also a space for the statue to physically be buried.
Right.
In a way, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like
imagining a future where it is here underground.
Right.
And now people are excavating this colonial history, and that's this old forgotten thing instead of the stories of all the suffering.
Right.
You know what I mean? Love it.
Yeah.
But fucking. That's the next thing we're going to be talking about. Vietnam War Veterans Memorial in D.C., I believe, right? You might have seen it. It's kind of like a large wall with all the names of the dead. It's black. People go up and do rubbings of it, if their loved one.
Oh, yeah. I saw it when I was there.
Yeah?
I remember
seen it physically.
hearing about it, how it came about. I guess there was a contest.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
And it's just like America. The selected design that happened in that contest you mentioned, 2,000, a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And they were anonymous. They couldn't see the name when they had them on display, and they whittled it down. The selected design was controversial in particular due to its lack of color. You've seen it, it's black. Its lack of ornamentation and its configuration below ground level. It's carved right out of the ground, kind of like
like a hill. It's like a hill, and then there's just a recessed area where the wall is. It's almost like a retaining wall.
Yeah, exactly. It was described as a black gash of shame and sorrow by somebody who fucking cares to quote, because fuck it. It was described by James Webb, Secretary of the what's the fucking worst Navy water fuckers. Dude. It was described by James Webb like this: never in my wildest wet dreams have I imagined such a nihilistic slab of stone.
Okay.
According to one writer, the only one that's out there, some viewed her selection as an affront. They could not understand how a woman, so spoiler, it was a woman.
Okay.
And some just couldn't understand how a woman, a youth, and a Chinese American could design a memorial for men, for soldiers, and for Americans, true Americans. End quote.
So he was a little that was the controversy, huh?
So a woman.
They tried to make it keep
woman.
it anonymous, but then it was like, nope, the cat got out.
They find out all right, artists, come make it, and then she shows up with, whoa, you're a woman, you're young and Chinese.
Yeah.
Do you even speak English?
Are you sure you weren't rooting for the other side?
Fucking wet, huh? No, she wouldn't be wet because in our great man culture, women never are. That was bad. According to one, we did it. The artist, though, and I told her name, say it again, Maya Lin, right?
Uh-huh.
She was harassed after her ethnicity was revealed. In this way, when a prominent businessman and later third-party presidential candidate, Ross Perot, in the press, while criticizing her piece of art, called her an egg roll.
Whoa!
refer to her as a problematic egg roll.
I don't know that much about Ross Perot, but it does not.
You always hear his name
surprise
growing up, huh? Like,
Yeah,
I
and,
remember
like,
Ross Perot.
Yeah, you know about him. Like we know about now NAFTA. He hated
Yeah.
NAFTA. He split the vote.
So all
blah,
these
blah.
people out there who are like, oh, I just need a third-party system, man. Like, we have a third party. We just one more party, man, and we'd fix everything. No, it would just now people would be referred to in bigoted ways based on like the food that people think they eat. Like
Yeah,
that's all that's going to happen if
by
we just
by
introduce
4 or
a-
5 parties instead
Yeah.
of just the Republicans.
We already have a million parties. Like, it's just that we call them two. But
Right.
okay, in Latin America, here's another thing. Like, especially Mexico, Bill. There's a term called a parallel term to like the counter monument that we've been talking about so far. It's a long one episode. There's a parallel term, and it's called anti-monumento, which has developed a different meaning than like the counter monument, because in this way, it's the equivalent in political like ideology to guerrilla sculpture, or simply, it's an illegal installation of politically themed sculpture. They are used to denounce the inaction of the state and reclaim public space. Normally, they happen like during demonstrations or protests, you know. And as Marcio Seligman Silva writes, they correspond to a desire to actively recall painful pasts, you know, just like the counter monuments.
Okay.
And some of the issues commemorated in like these ones that are like kind of like, I guess they're very popular in like Latin America, you know, because they'll be like at a demonstration or they're kind of temporary, whereas the ones that we've seen so far are more permanent.
Right. These are more guerrilla art installations,
Which I love. That's why I want to bring them up as like performance art almost.
Yeah.
And they, you know, they commemorate, or not commemorate, but like are trying to bring back to public memory disappearances of a bunch of folks, like the students and these women. You know,
there's a lot of disappeared people in Latin America.
disappeared folks, massacres, migration struggles, the killing of women outright. You know, women and children first. Bill, you know why? On Titanic, because the water hates them. Like, put them out there first, get them wet. All these oppression of women and shit. You know what hates them more?
They're key
is
to
water.
repopulation, to keep population. Drew, okay, man. I don't
think about too much, but do
Now,
your research.
I know.
Don't think about
Okay,
too much,
all
but do
right.
your research.
I'm just trying to move the podcast along.
Okay, here we go. Baywatch. Back to Baywatch.
Thank you.
Pritika Chowdhury. You know how this Indian artist relates to Baywatch? She's an Indian artist, and she's the founder of this thing called Partition, Anti-Memorial Project and Counter Memory Project, okay?
Okay.
And truth be told, I'm going to do a shout-out here. We haven't really ever done this. I'm going to shout out Partition Podcast. Go look it up on fucking Apple, wherever you look at podcasts. It's this podcast I got into lately. I'm an Indian American, and it's about the partition of India and Pakistan by great water fucking enthusiast the Crown, and millions of people were killed, and nobody talks about it. And this is just a fascinating podcast by a woman about how women and children and people were fucking murdered, and nobody. It's horrible. It's in my history, and I can't believe I don't talk about it. I've talked to my relatives about it. We don't go into it, but we shouldn't get into it here because it's actually an interesting story. But you know, all this shit happened to me. My relatives don't even talk about it, so it's kind of close to my heart right now. I want to pitch the podcast Partition. Go look it up.
I'll look it up.
And that's where I learned about counter memory. This artist, Pritika Chowdhury, she's an artist, counter memorial artist. And I'm gonna read a little bit about like her description of it and why she does it. And she talks about Foucault.
I don't know, but is it Michael or Michelle?
It's Mikhail.
Mikhail. Oh, damn it.
And he writes she is talking about him because she's like, that's the origin of these ideas of counter memory and where counter monument
Is this postmodern?
grows from. Postmodern, philosophy or whatever.
Right.
Mikhail writes in explaining the three modalities of history, quote, "The third is a sacrificial modality directed against truth and opposes history as knowledge. It implies a use of history that severs its connection to memory. Its metaphysical and it severs its connection to memory and to its metaphysical and anthropological model, and it constructs a counter memory, a transformation of history into a totally different form of time." So in other words, what he's saying is that counter memory is an individual act of resistance to relentlessly question the veracity of the history, quote, of true knowledge.
Right, being told to you.
Right. These counter memories are a way to bring the history that is buried into light, to show that true history is all the forgotten stories of human past, right? These are the histories of the real effects of colonial oppression, of nation building, the stories of the silencing and disempowering of women and men and children and minority groups. This is really what it took to get here. into our present day. Not some great story about heroes. It took fucking people getting bulldozed.
Right.
More people than like the people that this kind of history helps. This fake history helps, right?
Right.
Like we're all suffering, and this is really what it took to get here. And not just a few heroes and villains and statues of Robert E. Lee, but countless human lives that suffered, lived, and died in this thing that the rulers of capital call progress. It's the best we've had, Bill, and people are starving unnecessarily and are sick and are dying, and we're just so good. So we're good. It's perfect. History is right. So pack it up, right?
Well, I feel like there's probably a counter narrative to that.
The floating counter monument, Bill. To really bring it back now, I've done my research. I do my little thing.
Bring it
I'm
back
researching
to the bay?
water. Yeah, and now I'm doing my thing on the side, not poisoning your mind with the truth. Now I'm going to bring it back to the bay.
I'm surprised you actually have not talked about water as much as
the floating counter monument from the episode. It's a counter monument because it's a monument against the control of money.
Wait, what was in the Baywatch episode?
The cruise ship that they gambled on. It was that was just an art piece. That was a counter monument.
So was that an actual art piece? Like
yes. That they visited in the show. It's very deep. They don't express everything because they're writing like a very esoteric and deep thing to explain so many parts about our culture to you and the war that's going on in the culture.
Yeah, I didn't catch that. I just thought it was like some old rusty boat that they were just doing an illegal gambling operation.
No. I mean, that's the surface reading, Bill. Court takes the guys to a shrine of anti-capital, and this is the anti-monument to the bull of Wall Street. This ship, this cruise ship that they're gambling on. Anti-monument to the bull of Wall Street, which are the money controllers.
That's just because it's like operating outside of Wall Street.
Well, it's on the opposing. Yeah, it's on water. You see, Bill, we Baywatching truthers, we despise government regulation. They control the money. They control the thermostats. They control how many gallons our toilets flush. And that's why, Bill, in this episode, we see the sculpture of a ship floating on the ocean. In it, money is available to our lifeguards. Money without the pesky rules of the government. The allegory here goes even deeper than that, though, Bill, and that's what I'm saying. You see, Eddie gets greedy, Bill, and he wants more than our dry God has deemed that he deserves. And he pays the price, literally. Well, he could have paid the price. He would have, but court realizes that the counter monument is actually a monument. And not a counter monument, because he discovers that money is still being controlled on the ship, and it's for the benefit of like the privileged elite.
That's what it seems
this
like.
one white dude with an evil accent.
Yeah.
So this is a message to us Baywatching truthers, Bill, that the reason that this bold experiment, this what would have been a great anti-monument, it failed because the ship itself, the counter monument, was actually floating on the ocean. You see, Harmony Hansono is signaling us, Bill.
Come on, dude.
He's signaling us here.
Pretty good.
He's
You
signaling
almost
us
made it all the
through
way
Greg
through.
Bonin, and he's signaling us through Baywatch that nothing good can be done when you are in league with the water. And I want to destroy these water monuments. I want to build counter monuments to these water monuments, Bill. And I'm very grounded now. And I'm centered now that I've got my water truth community.
don't sound
I
very
work on that
grounded.
on the side.
You need
I
to stop
focus
with
on
this
all
water
my duties.
truth stuff.
No.
This is not
I'm
a water
empowered.
truth
I'm
podcast.
strong.
This is a
I've had
Baywatching
space
podcast.
here. We've been channeling.
Dude, what are you talking
I'm
about? All right,
channeling
all right.
Harumi Hansono now.
All right.
He's
Well,
dead,
I guess,
but he can speak to me.
I guess the episode's over
He's
now.
teaching me about the truth with
All
water.
right, I'm going to put my stuff away. Where is Maine?
He's teaching me
Where's the kitty? Where's
water.
the cat?
Baywatching
seen the
truthers. You can find us at Twitter, Baywatching P.
Mange.
Find us at Instagram at Baywatching
Mange.
Podcast. Remember to donate your money.
Oh my God, Maine!
What? We're gonna
Oh my
get out
God,
of
Maine!
here.
Are you
Close that.
okay? Oh my God, she's not moving. Drew,
Yeah.
Drew, call the vet. Drew, I'm gonna take her to the vet.
What are you?
Drew, find where the vet is.
She's fine. She's sleeping.
No.
She's sleeping.
No, oh my God.
She's sleeping. You call the vet.
Yeah,
You're holding her.
I'm running.
You have a hand.
Hang in there, Mange. I'm gonna get you to the vet. It's gonna be okay.
It's so weird living here.